What is going on, everyone, and welcome to the Aspect Podcast Network, the home of the Valyrian Voice. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below to be the first to listen to our weekly reactions and other shows from the Aspect, including X-Men, Star Wars, Avatar: The Last Airbender, and more. What is going on, everyone, and welcome to the Valyrian Voice here on the Aspect Network. I'm one of your hosts, Alex Batts, and joining me again every week to discuss the latest and greatest in the world of Westeros is my friend Hamed Alazzamy. Hamed, glad to have you back on the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Yeah, I'm not here every week, unfortunately. I wasn't here last episode, but
That's
you
okay.
guys did fantastic. And yeah, I'm just very glad to be back.
Yeah, I mean, Sean powered through. He did a good job
He
for
was he
having
was
no
great.
knowledge.
He was fantastic, truly.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's kick off the show by just I guess diving into our overall thoughts and reactions to this week's episode. Alex, what did you think about episode 7, which is unfortunately the penultimate episode of the season, the Red Sowing?
Yeah, so okay. I liked this episode more than last week. I would put this episode overall on the general like hits column. I talked about this last week where I was like some of them hits, misses, and somewhere in between. This one I think more so on the hit side of things. I think that it still had I think there's just a problem with this season and the way that the season has been structured as a whole at this point, but it did still have a little bit of pacing issues in some parts of it, I think. But overall, I really enjoyed it. I think the last like 25 minutes were super, super solid. I think the first like 25 minutes were also super solid. There's just like a little bit in the middle that felt kind of weird. There are a couple of things that I maybe would have cut to save time on this episode and add other stuff that is still being pushed off some.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I really enjoyed it. This episode, what this episode ends with, is what I was thinking was going to happen like 2 weeks ago. And so that's just a general, like, kind of window into what I'm talking about when I think that the pacing issues overall for the season structure is a little bit weird because I think, like, we really, in my opinion, should have gotten this a while ago. But
Yeah.
that said, I did like the way that it was executed here. I think that for the most part, all of the cast gets to shine in this episode. All of the cast that appears. I realized as the episode ended that like a couple of characters that we just straight up didn't even see at all. Um, so that was really interesting. And yeah, I think that it was solid. There's still a couple of things that I'm iffy on. Um, but overall, pretty good episode. What did you think of this week's?
Um, yeah, it was a hit. I loved it, honestly. This
Nice.
was I just felt like the last 2 weeks were just so droll and so boring on so many different levels
Hmm.
because it was just there's problems with pacing. I have no problems with, quote unquote filler episodes, but at the same time they were just boring. The pacing was off. There were so many unnecessary things, and I'm talking about the last 2 weeks. But this was great. I kind of agree with you. Maybe a few things could have been cut, but at the
Hmm.
same time, I kind of like I'm not mad that they weren't, as opposed to stuff from the last 2 weeks where it kind of felt like where is this heading towards? What are we doing here? Like, we're not at a 20 episode season. We
Yeah.
only have 8 episodes, and I felt like we essentially wasted two of those episodes just for God knows what reason. I have no idea.
Right.
And it's just strange. But again, moving on to this week, I thought it was great. I really thought it was. Um, I'm very very sad that we're only getting one more episode, and I genuinely have no idea where we're gonna end this season at. But I think you have a better idea of it, honestly.
Yeah, I am pretty sure I know exactly where this season is ending. Um, especially after watching the little like teaser trailer thing that they did for, that they show for like next week on. Um, I think it's an interesting choice. It makes sense given the way they've drawn everything out. And I say that in like kind of a negative way and kind of just in like literally what has happened. They have taken uh, this amount of time and really stretched some of these events and spent time necessarily where they didn't need to. But yeah, so I'm like 99% sure I know where this season is ending. There was still some things though that were in that trailer, the clips where I was kind of uncertain of, or a little bit like it seems. I'm really curious. I'm pretty sure that we've seen actually how long, like that we know how long this episode is going to be, but it feels like it'll need to be a long episode that is just straight up packed with stuff. And I feel like we could have, depending on what one of the images that is sticking out to me in that thing in that trailer, depending on what that is actually depicting, um, I think that we could have put some more of the things that are going to happen in the finale like earlier. Like we could have gotten to them in the meat of the season rather than it
Right.
being saved for the finale. Um, yeah, I think that it makes sense. We're definitely, I mean, we're getting a battle next episode, which is cool. I think it's
For sure.
pretty like clear they were teeing that up from the trailers and stuff, and also with the way that this episode ended. So that was great to see, or that'll be great to see. That's exciting. It's going to be really interesting to see how that comes together. But yeah, I think that, I mean, it's in a good spot for the season finale. I do also think that it's interesting that they are choosing to do the finale as the big battle thing rather than the penultimate episode, kind of mixing it up a little bit. Which I mean, I guess like since they're working with an
Mhm.
8 episode season, it's so weird that this season is 8 episodes. Honestly, it's I don't
Kind of would
think
have made much more sense.
yeah, I don't understand entirely, but it happens. We have our 8 episode season. We only have one more episode, and then we have to wait like 2 years again for more stuff. Ugh. Um, but yeah, I guess those are like our general thoughts for the episode as a whole. But we're going to take a quick break, and whenever we come back, we're going to be diving deeper into the episode and some of our favorite moments. We'll be right back. Hey, Aspect listener, my name is Alex.
And I'm Kate, enjoying this show on the Aspect Network.
Then check out Bending the Narrative.
We are your one stop shop for everything in the world of Avatar The Last Airbender.
Each week, we go back and discuss your favorite episodes of the series with a particular focus on the characters and narrative threads that tie the series together.
In addition to discussing the original series, we also dive into other stories in the world of Avatar, like Legend of Korra, the live action Netflix series, the books, the comics, and more.
Join us as we travel the globe with Team Avatar and discuss one of the greatest animated series of all time on Bending the Narrative here on the Aspect Network.
Now, back to the show.
Welcome back to the Valyrian Voice. Before the break, we discussed some of our overall thoughts on Season 2, Episode 7, but now let's dive deeper into some of the best moments from this week's episode. Hamed, what were some of your favorite moments from the Red Sowing?
Okay, to answer your question, I will get to the favorite parts, but I wanted to start with something that I wasn't a huge fan of. I am not a huge
Okay,
fan of this Army of the Bastards thing. I'm
interesting.
not.
Okay.
I don't know. I feel like after hearing Jaceres talk to Rhaenyra about it, I think he has a point, kind of.
See, I
I know
thought,
it was mostly rooted in anger,
yeah,
but still, I kind of agree with him. It kind of makes sense what he said.
Hamed's elitist. What?
It's not that. It's not.
Yeah,
I've
that's
never been
exactly what it is.
elitist. But
No, but I mean, like that's kind of what it is, though. Like, this is so funny. We actually are completely opposite in this, because I don't like love the um army of the bastards that she gets, but mainly because of what ends up happening later, not on principle that they're bastards in universe. And I also like when the scene came around. One of the scenes actually that I was thinking that I was like, oh, I would maybe cut this one, was the scene when Jace goes to her and is complaining about
okay,
this, and because I was like, well, this is to me, some unnecessary drama that doesn't really need to be there between the two of them. And also, it's just making them kind of weirdly elitist for no reason. Because his whole thing is like I get that when you break it down and where it's coming from him, like from his perspective, it's literally just insecurity about the fact that he's a bastard, and he's like, well, now people can question me and stuff. And so I understand in universe how it's he's coming at it from that angle, but at the same time, really, like it's all just like he wants to be like, oh well, they're not a proper Targaryen, or they're not highborn, right? And it's like, okay, well, I mean, they're not actually like different from you though, especially if they can still ride a dragon. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think it was interesting that they had him take that stance, and I do think that it does make sense for the character and like in universe. I just don't necessarily like the like them putting the conflict there between them, I guess.
Okay, that maybe I can kind of agree with. I felt like it was a little bit of unnecessary drama, and I thought it was super disrespectful for him to say when you took Harmon Strong into your bed, like, bro, that's your mom. What are you talking about? It
Yeah.
was so strange just seeing him talk like that because he's always been on his mother's side. Like he's a little bit impatient, sure, but like
Yeah.
he's
Like he
always had
wants
her
to help,
back. And that
but he's
switch up
never
was
like
just super
abrupt.
unexpected. Yeah, but at the same time, I kind of understood where he was coming from. I have no problems with someone being highborn or lowborn or anything like that. They are still are they're all Targaryens at the end of the day. Like you're right, but at the same time, the Dragon Keeper's speech also kind of makes sense. Like the dragons are essentially gods in this universe. Like not
I
anyone
don't.
has a right to them. And the
Yeah.
fact that people such as I'm pretty sure it's Bela. Which one doesn't have a dragon?
Reina.
Was it Bela?
Bela is
It's Reyna, right? Yeah. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
The fact that Reyna can't mount a dragon, but some drunken
Well, but
dude, I, it just,
I
I'm
mean,
not super on board with that.
spoiler alert, she can mount a dragon. That'll
Oh, she
like
hasn't until this point. I know what you mean,
yeah, she hasn't yet,
but I mean, as long as I mean, she will.
but like the
But she's tried and she's failed. And some
so
dude who spent more than half his life in a bar can suddenly do it because he
yeah,
stumbled upon a dragon.
I mean the thing is, and that's why it's a weird case of elitism, and like if you want to equate it to that, and it doesn't like entirely work in the universe, because the rules of the universe do skew in favor of like, well, there are people that can and cannot ride dragons, right? Like you either have the blood of the
Right.
dragon or you don't. Whereas like normal um just what's the word I'm looking for? Superficial like elitism, like where there's no actual discernible difference between people. It's just like people saying that they're highborn or lowborn, right? So the universe does skew in favor of like, no, there is an actual difference between some of these people. But to your point of like, oh well, it's Reina hasn't been able to, and some random dude, just because like it's because like in universe, like it has been decided like he's able to do that because he does have some Targaryen blood in him, right? And so like
Mhm.
that does give him the ability to be able to do that. But yeah, it's a weird thing. I get um I don't remember what you had said one specific point that I wanted to bounce back off of. But yeah, I thought it was just a weird like point of conflict for them to give to Jace. I think that they could have, because I agree that I like the it's just him. It's exploring his own insecurities more, which I think is good for his character and like interesting stuff to do. But I think that you maybe could have done that in a different way. Oh, the other point I remember, the other point that you had said. I didn't like the Dragon Keeper's speech. Also, I was like, well, this is just weirdly like who are I get the perspective of they're like, oh, the dragons are above us, and like they're not just playthings for people, right? And like, yeah, but also why do you get to decide who does and doesn't get to approach and try to ride a dragon? Like who made you in charge of that? Like if the dragons are supposed to be above you, it's not like they were like, oh heck yeah, you get to choose the people that do and don't. Like the dragon gets to choose. That's the whole point. Like if the option is they either get accepted by the dragon because the dragon's like, yeah, they're chill, or they die, like, all right, I feel like that's you should be indifferent to that if your job is just like making sure the dragons are fine. It's not like a normal person is going to be able to do anything to the dragon except die, or the dragon will be like, yeah, you're cool. And so like that speech, I was like, this is another weird conflict thing that I don't entirely see the point of. Um, but at the same time, it then was cool having just Rhaenyra go like with the people, and like I liked her speech and her getting them all like ready to go, and that entire sequence was sick. That was awesome. I feel like we'll talk about that in a minute though, like when we get more into it. But that all that stuff was good. But yeah, I did think that speech was like, again, like they just kept on adding these weird confrontations, I thought, around this thing happening, and I didn't necessarily think they needed to be there. Like I thought the whole thing could have been a little bit more straightforward, I guess, instead of like continuing to twist to get there.
I mean, I guess when you kind of put it to the fact that he's basically just talking about his insecurities, I guess it kind of makes sense. It kind of
Hmm.
does. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I just he does have a point though. He does have a point when he talks about like, if anyone, if bastards can be, so easily found, what makes me stand out when it comes to, succession, when it comes to me being the heir? And everyone's gonna say,
Mhm.
well, you're right near a son. You're
Yeah.
the heir. I get it. I get it. I
Right.
know that's your answer, but still, the fact that I just feel like he could be easily replaced if that's the way of thinking. And I'm not trying to be elitist whatsoever. I'm not gonna
No, no, I
differentiate
know.
between high
I
born and
was
low born.
joking. Like
I
whenever
know
I.
you're kidding. I know you're kidding. I know you're kidding. But at the
No,
same
it's
time,
I see. I don't really think that he has a point though. I think that that is like a good thing. Like I think that that's a character flaw in his on his part, which is fine. That's a good thing for a well-rounded character. But like, I don't, because it's like, no, well, like, what makes you stand out is the fact that, like, yeah, you're still Rhaenyra's son. Like, another bastard can claim that they can ride a dragon, but they can't claim that they're the heir to the Iron Throne just because they can ride a dragon. Like, that's not how it works. That's not how the oaths and the lines of succession and like the rules of this universe are. And so I don't think that there's anything really happening there that directly undermines him. Maybe tangentially it would undermine him, but only part of his claim. Because then even still, you're like, oh well, they clearly have some Targaryen blood in them. It's not like anyone can ride a dragon, and so um, yeah, it does. I think that it less so is accurate in that it undermines him, and more so is applicable to it not being great the more people have this power, like treating the dragons, even though like they aren't weapons, they're creatures, but in the comparison that they are just weapons of mass destruction, like the
right.
more people that are able to wield these weapons of mass destruction is just simply not a good thing. And there'll be plenty examples of why as we go forward. um but yeah,
I kind of feel
I
like
thought
we got a, a a little glimpse of that, I guess, at
with
the end of the episode with Ulf.
oh yeah, I mean, or with Hugh Hammer and then Ulf. Oh, are you talking about how like it's not a
No,
good thing that more people are gonna be?
I thought no, I was talking about Ulf specifically. What was Ulf? He was the guy on the dragon at the end of the episode, right? The one
Yeah, yeah.
when he was going towards King's Landing, or
Hmm.
was that planned? I never really understood that. Was he on a joyride or was this planned?
I think that he just was like going wherever the dragon went, basically. Like I think he was along for the ride, like mostly. Um, but yeah, it'll definitely be. I mean, they'll definitely be very key players going forward. They're dragon riders
Right,
now, right? Um, which is super cool. I think I saw
right.
some people making jokes about it before the episode had aired. This is totally not a related topic, but um, seeing the same shipyard in this episode that's been in like all
Oh
7
my
episodes,
god.
it's basically they're getting their money out of that set.
Yeah.
um,
And it's not even just that, man. It's the shipyard and Damon. Like we haven't even gotten to Damon, but I'm just so glad he had something to do this episode instead
dude,
of be
his
essentially
scenes
haunted.
this episode I actually didn't have a problem with, really. I
I
actually
I I, I didn't have a problem with it only because he actually had something to do.
yeah,
You
so
know,
his non-haunting scene, his actual things that are happening in the conscious world scene between the River Lords, I
it's
thought was
about
one of
time,
the was like one of the best episodes of the season, honestly, or one of the best
right?
scenes of the season. Honestly, it was really good. I love how the entire thing unfolded, how the different like you had so many different personalities there. You had them all bouncing off of each other really well, and you could feel the stakes and like who had the advantage at various times, like shifting and changing as the conversation in the scene went on. And it was done so well. And it was really cool to see and seeing the characters have to react to each other and then try to get an advantage in a different way. And like that kid acted his ass off also. Like he did such a great job. Being able to hold your own in a scene with Matt Smith like that is so great. And
He
yeah,
was so good. Oscar Tully, man, he's
crushed
one to look
it.
out for sure. He was great.
Yeah, that whole scene I thought was fantastic. The way that it
It
just
was.
evolved as a whole and like all of it was really good. So that was great. He had something to do there. That was really exciting to see. And then also in his haunting scene, the non-conscious world thing, we got Viserys back again. We got him in his full decaying, like on death's door, fit and look, which is also, or which is always cool to see. They crushed that, of
Right,
course.
right.
Um,
Yeah, he did.
and I mean, it's just great to see Patty back. Like he was so phenomenal, and so he was back last week, which was really cool. But then having him back again this week was nice. And then that
No, he was fantastic. He was.
the like
I
exchange
think
between him.
I think your argument, or I thought your point about the non-conscious world scenes,
Hmm.
just because they were really good this week does not mean that this is getting super old.
Oh yeah, I definitely still whenever it first like started and went into the non, I was like Jesus Christ, like I was not surprised, but also I was like we've really genuinely spent the entire season doing
The
this,
entire
the
season doing
whole
this entire
the
thing
whole damn
every
season.
single week, man.
And like this, don't get like I loved seeing Patty. I thought this scene was good. I loved seeing him last week. I thought that scene was good, but it still is the same goddamn thing every week. That's a problem. like we
It is.
you can't
It
do that.
is. They've
We should have
wasted
just
Damon so
we
hard this
we
season.
didn't okay. uh, And I understand not doing this because it's Matt Smith as Damon Targaryen, so you're gonna want him in every episode. But like we didn't see Kristen Cole this week because he didn't have shit to do, and so we didn't see
Yeah.
him. Which like, I didn't even realize until the episode was over and the credits were rolling. I was like, oh damn, we didn't. I heard him like he had a line in the trailer
It
for
was
like the next
yeah,
season, and
he had two lines in maybe the beginning of the episode. That's it, I think.
he was win because he's
I
not
think
because they don't have a
I
full
think
like
it was he was talking to Allison's, I think. I'm not even entirely sure, but I'm pretty sure he had at least one line. I know that we
no because
saw him this episode.
the first person that's talking to Allison is the Maester. It's not Cole. It's whenever she's treating her arm, and then the only other person she
Yeah, no,
talks
no,
to,
that I saw. That I remember.
the only other person she
I
talks to
could
is
be wrong. Honestly, I
with her
could be wrong.
Kingsguard,
I could be wrong. You could
because
be right. I feel like you are right.
then she like goes to the Kingsguard, which I'll talk about that stuff in a second. But like, um, yeah, like Kristen Cole wasn't in this episode because he didn't have anything to do, and it's like okay, we could have gone an episode without Damon, right? And I feel even just one episode without
You
having
can't
that
though.
stuff.
It's Matt Smith.
I mean, I know, and that's why
You
I
can't.
understand. I understand why it's not happening, but I feel like on the audience, like imagine how much better it would feel, like even if we had the same amount of scenes of him in Harrenhal, but like one of them was cut from one week and we just got it in like one of the weeks before or later on. So it's not like timeline wise it really matters because it's like it's hard to I like we assume that all of these things that we're seeing are happening like concurrently, roughly in order, right? But like they're not in the same place, and with the way that word travels in this world, anyways, like it doesn't really like Damon's scenes can be moved around, and it's not going to affect the larger plot really thing that's happening
Right.
until like the stuff that he needs to get done gets to the point where it needs to get done to then converge with the rest of the people that we've been watching. And so like just imagine if like we didn't have a week of Damon and Harrenhal and his hauntings, right? Then
It would be much better for the story. It would make room for much more other things that we would like to see this season.
mhm.
But then again, if we're talking about story wise, yeah, you're right. But still, when we we're talking about a show here, and Matt Smith
I mean,
is
yeah, like it's Matt Smith as Damon Targaryen.
he's
You
Matt
can't not
Smith.
have
You
him
know what
from
I mean? You
yeah,
can't
like
just
I mean,
not
I get
have.
it. Yeah. No, but I mean, his scenes were good, even though I can't believe we spent an entire season doing this. And he's still gonna be there next week too.
It's so annoying.
It's
It's just like
insane.
he
It's
feels
genuinely
wasted.
insane. Yeah. I
He
mean, he's been
feels wasted. He
separated
really
from
does.
everyone this entire season, which like I knew this was gonna happen. I read the book. Like I knew that he just spends a long time at Harrenhal at the beginning of the war, but like, uh, it's a bummer. I think
It
that
is.
they've done a good job giving him something to do still, considering his job for this part in the timeline is literally just sit there and chill at Harrenhal. And so like I said this was the beginning of the season 2. I was like, they're giving him something to do, and so I respect it, but it's still just like feels like a slog a little bit with him. The other thing, before we get into the things that I really, really loved in this episode, the last thing that I didn't necessarily love, what the hell is going on with Alicent's scenes? Like, what are we doing here? They're like, she just dipped out. She was like, I'm gonna go to the woods for a little bit. I'm over this, which, like,
It makes
real.
no sense.
I mean, like, she's done with everything. She's like, this war that I started on accident because I misinterpreted what Viserys said is like completely out of my control. A bunch of people are dying. Like, no one cares about what I think. I can't do anything. Yada yada. And so she's like, I just want to get away from this. Which, like, I understand. Cool, but also, why are we spending these precious minutes in this 8-episode season doing this? Like, and Ryan Condal in the like behind the scenes
There
thing.
is something that I read before, and it was essentially. I think it's because the director or the showrunner just
I know
really
what you're
loves the
talking about.
actress.
Yeah, I saw that
I think he just
post
really
over,
loves the actress,
which is
and I
fair.
guess
She's
that
I
theory
love
makes
Olivia
sense.
Cook. Like
She's
she's
fantastic, but
yeah,
she's not crucial to. She's not this essential to the story.
not at this point, and not in
Not
this way.
she
And it
doesn't move the plot. She her presence does nothing this episode.
yeah, it's I heard him
You
saying
know what
at
I
the
mean?
yeah, I'm not it's they're just there, which I love her, and I don't love Alicent as a character. I love her portrayal as Alicent. She does a great job, but yeah, like he was saying in the inside the episode thing after that, she kind of like at the end of her lounging in the lake or whatever, like her eyes snap open and she's got this new like purpose or realization or whatever, and like what that is remains to be seen. And like
After what though?
like, one, okay, sure, whatever, but also I'm like racking my head and trying to think about what the hell he's talking about, because I know what happens going forward, and like she doesn't really
Right.
she doesn't do that much. Spoiler alert. Like, it's
She
not
doesn't move the
Allison's
plot.
not one of
She
the dragon
doesn't move the
riders.
plot.
She's
Yeah.
not like it's sorry. Yeah, it's a little bit like I mean the whole point is that it's kind of out over control now. Um but yeah, so I mean those scenes were whatever. They looked great. I mean, cinematography has still been fantastic this season. Except for the opening scene I thought was really I had a friend like send me a screenshot when he started watching earlier and was like, "What is this Russo Bros looking scene with the like opening with Cyrax and Rhaenyra and Sea Smoke and Adam of Hull
It was
on the
just
beach."
the color grading was just very weird on that.
It was just a weird choice of like, because I mean the
It
beach and the
was.
water just
I
looked
get it.
super close in color, and then the sky looked super close in color, and so it was all just really one tone. Um,
Right.
which that was fine. I liked the tension in that scene though. I thought that was pretty good. Um, but yeah, I think those are the main big scenes, except for the very ending. Because we got Damon, we got him. Oh, we had Aegon, who's just absolutely beat to shit and trying to
Yeah.
like move. That dude is cooked, bro.
That guy is he's cooked. Quite literally cooked.
Yeah, he's not doing too hot.
Quite literally.
Feel bad for him, kind of, which is crazy because he sucks. Um,
Yeah, but
but
the Grand Maester says that he's making good progress and whatever. I don't think it's gonna be like on the sideline for long. I don't expect it. Not obviously
I
not
mean
this
he'll be
season. This
back
season
next
he's gone.
season. Yeah. Um,
I hope he takes his time because honestly, I love seeing Aemon rule. Like I hate Aemon, but I cannot deny how good of a ruler he is.
oh, he's great. He's really exciting to watch in that regard. Um,
He
I
is.
keep on
He,
I keep on
he
forgetting
really
his
is.
name, but the Glenn Carey, I think, is the actor for Aegon. I think that's his name. Fantastic job. I think it's really impressive to when people can display or like show like someone in excruciating pain in a way that doesn't come off as like cartoonish or like over the top, you know. I was watching
Right,
it and I
right.
was like, oh, this is very believable that like this dude's in some real agony. um which I mean, you know, the makeup and everything and the costume and all that definitely helps, but yeah, great performance with like very little. It's not like he has like lines really, you know. He's just as
Yeah.
yelling and like
His his his
grunting.
his yelling and the facial expressions and
His
essentially
whole
the mewing that he does with his face.
yeah, it was very good. Um so yeah, I mean besides that, it's the final sequence, the Red Sowing, which is what the episode is titled after, which is known as the Red Sowing. I do think that so this is when Rhaenyra gets all of the people, all of the common folk who think that they might have Targaryen blood, to see if any of them are going to be able to be dragon riders, and it's pulling them all together. And I do think so. One, I said this earlier. This should have happened like 2 episodes ago. Whatever. We're finally getting to it, which is nice. I think that they displayed this in a pretty like because the way it happens in the book is that it's this like day or days long event of like they've got a dragon. They don't really go into like detail for it as far as the like logistics of how they do it. But like I just imagine it's like a day or a couple days and like one of the dragons are like out wherever on Dragonstone and like people are able to just like come up and try and like, you know, you go up and see a person get burned and then like wait a little bit and then like the next one like it's a like roller coaster or something. Um
Right.
but like I think I think that the way that they chose to depict this situation was done well. I think it was a smart choices made for the drama of a TV show and like having because like by the end of the Red Sowing in the book, they're like we have you know a couple new dragon riders, which one like Adam of Hull that happens not before the Red Sowing, if I'm remembering correctly in the book, whereas it does here. Like we, you know, had him, of course, claiming sea smoke at the end of last week and then flying to Dragonstone. Um, but so they only needed to get two from this particular sequence, and I think that they did it really well. I loved. I mean, it was just an incredibly well done scene and sequence
Right.
overall.
Right.
It like was paced beautifully. The tension and the display of Vermithor is just sick. Like looked great. I think that uh Rhaenyra was phenomenal. Like that performance. I loved seeing her struggle with that.
Control. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
her control whenever she's getting to Vermithor, like the awe, and then when Vermithor starts just absolutely massacring everyone, just like the
He just goes after everyone, man. It was just wild. I did not see that coming.
oh dude, he literally just starts like yeah, just mowing people down. Um, but I think that the way that they played her reaction was really a fascinating thing to see because you can see her having to deal with the fact that she's just led all these people to slaughter and like yeah she can tell them and they can say that they know that like this is what they like signed up for and this is what like they knew that this was a possible outcome but saying that and then literally experiencing and seeing that is like a very different thing and I like that how they showed that and like the weight that they put on that um and then yeah just the actual like technical like the way like there's the main once you get down and we're following Hugh Hammer and who's the more like honorable of the two that gets to claim a dragon in this episode like when we're following him and staying with him like that long take with him was so impressive and just like staying with him and seeing a dragon the size of Vermithor just straight up like as a monster in this cavern and like it's straight up like a horror sequence almost like with the just giant like Godzilla like creature just absolutely wreaking
Right.
chaos and havoc.
Right. Right.
I mean it was so cool and then the way that he stands his ground like one helps the girl out and then like stands his ground and like is able to claim Vermithor is just sick like that it was so cool.
It was great.
um
It was really good. Overall.
yeah so that was cool and then we got to see his drunken counterpart who is not worthy and sucks real hard. Ulf the White stumbling through the caverns of Dragonstone and then claiming Silverwing, who was the good Queen Alysanne's dragon. Loved Good Queen. Um, Terrible judgment, Silverwing. What are you doing? Hate that this happens,
Yeah,
but
honestly, it makes no sense. But like
so how do you go
when
from
I
the good
thought, I was like,
queen
oh my god,
to this
yeah.
guy?
How do you? It's not even just about that. Like, what do you see in Ulf?
It's literally just because he has the blood. It's so annoying. It's because he
It's
has
not
the
even just
Harris's.
that. I feel like it's. I feel like there's more that goes into that when you choose when a dragon
It's
chooses a rider. I feel like it's more than blood.
it's it's because he has Jaehaerys's blood, and so Silverwing, who was Allison's dragon, is like, oh, okay, like cool. I knew Jaehaerys. He was rad. I love Jaehaerys so much. Kind of bums me out that we'll never get a show about his reign because like the whole point of his reign is that it was peaceful for
God,
80 years.
he was. It's still though, but he did it in a way that was fantastic. I read that. I read about his reign in Fire and Blood. That part got
So
to me. I
good.
thought it was so
I
good.
love his reign so much. I'm gonna tear up. It's so good.
And
Love
it's
that
not
man.
even just that. It's the fact that he did it and he was good at it starting at a super young age.
It makes it's so cool. It's so cool. He was
He
so,
started at like what was it? Wasn't it 14?
well. I mean, yeah, technically, because he had to have a regent until he turned 16.
It was yeah, and then but he started assuming duties mostly when he was 14, and then he got married at 16, right?
Mm-hmm. Because him and Asan had to do it in like secret / on their own because it was not approved of
Yeah,
by their family, and they were like, nope.
such a great reign, dude. And I just really I know it doesn't scream success when it comes to like,
For
actual
drama
revenue and like in
in a
drama and
TV
stuff,
show.
but still
I want to see it so
so
badly.
good.
The fact he's in the very first scene in the first season of House of the
Yeah,
Dragon,
no,
which
I
is
remember
super
that, but
cool.
he was super old, and
I mean, yeah, he has
when he was
0 life. This
announcing,
dude's
he
on
was
his death
when
on
he
his
was
deathbed.
announcing, yeah, it was when he was announcing
Viserys to be the heir.
what yeah Viserys the council. He said, you know what, I
Yeah.
got the council together, and he
Hmm.
deemed Viserys to be the heir.
Yeah. The Great Council of 101, I believe, is the year. Um, love Jaehaerys. Anyways, but yeah, that's why Silverwing chooses Ulf the White, the terrible dude, because he's got Jaehaerys' blood.
I
Which
mean,
is
I guess when you
so
put it like that, it makes sense. It makes sense mostly.
still very disappointing though. What did you think of both Vermithor and Silverwing's designs? Like, what do you think of how they look?
I thought Vermithor was good. Like his design was fantastic. Silverwing was really good. The color on Silverwing is super unique, I guess, if that makes sense. And Vermithor looked just super intimidating. When Rhaenyra
Hmm.
said that he was the largest dragon in the realm after Vhagar, they really put emphasis on making sure that the Vhagar is the only person that outsizes this dragon. He looked very
Yeah.
intimidating.
Um,
And Silverwing was. I like the design, but I really like the color scheme that he had on him. I know it
mhm.
seems dull, but it just
It's a really
it,
interesting like it kind of is dull, but it's also not. Like it's got
it's
an
unique. It stands out in its own dull way, if that makes sense.
I agree. It's got an interesting sheen is not the right word, but like for lack of a better word, it's got an interesting like sheen or gradient or whatever to it.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah, I do think
And
that.
especially when we saw Silverwing out in the sunlight after
Mhm.
when Ulf was on the ride, I was like, okay, wow, okay.
Yeah, he looked
I,
cool.
I see it. I see the appeal.
Which also it's not Silverwing, but cool to see Vermithor, Jaehaerys' dragon. Um,
Hmm.
Crazy to see both of them flying, honestly. Yeah, I thought they both looked awesome. Vermithor's size was wild, and then yeah, seeing them, and then so yeah, Ulf like flying out and flying to King's Landing, and then Aemond and Vhagar in pursuit briefly, and then him even. I do like a lot, and I think this was really important, and it was a somewhat subtle way to do this too. 'Cause I don't think that everyone watching necessarily realizes how close King's Landing and Dragonstone are from one another. Like I know they mention it in the show and talk about that they're like, you know, across the bay and stuff. This episode showed it very quickly and like which will be super important for next week.
Hmm.
Um
Yeah,
but like showing that it literally like Aemond hopped on Vagar and was like
they're
almost a
just
dragon
neighboring
stone
cities.
like
Yeah.
in a couple of like in 10 seconds, right? Like it did not take like it doesn't take long for you to get there from Dragonback. Which is wild that they're just both just stationed there. Um, but yeah, it was cool to see Vagar like in pursuit for a second, then having to turn away because like yeah, Vagar might be the biggest dragon, but like it's now that there's multiple on the other side, it's definitely not in
Right.
Vagar's favor, which is cool to see. And then that final shot of like Rhaenyra and the dragons in the background was just sick.
Oh, it was
Like,
great, and seeing her in red, it
mhm.
was just love that. The cinematography was ridiculously good there.
Yeah, it's some good stuff. We love seeing that. Yeah, I think those are most of the most of my big points on the episode, though. Just good
Yeah,
stuff.
I mean, I think yeah, I think we covered a lot of it, honestly.
Yeah,
Um, we did essentially go what scene by scene. I think the only thing that we didn't bring up was I guess Corliss talking to Adam
Adam.
or talking
Yeah, which is
to
cool because I mean, for those that don't know, that's Corliss's son, which
yeah.
is cool. Um, yeah, that was a nice like
But there
small
wasn't
thing.
even much to go on there. Yeah, there wasn't
It
much
was
to go on there though. He was just talking about.
it, it was a nice payoff for like earlier in the season whenever his brother is or whenever he's complaining to his brother about how Corliss never pays him any attention and like doesn't care about him, and so like that like well done like has a lot of weight to it, which is cool. I think that that was nice to have in there. It was a good scene, that, and then there was the other scene of Laris and Ironrod is his nickname. I can't remember his actual name, but
When we were
the
talking
character.
when they were talking about the whisper.
Yeah, whenever one dude was like, I heard whisper that Sea Smoke has a new writer. And he's like, I heard it from a like. And it was so funny whenever Laris is like, who'd you hear it from? And he's like, I heard it from my squire, who heard it from his brother, who heard it from whatever. And like, it's like the line all the way back, and Laris is
It
like,
just goes to show you the network is just so ridiculous when it comes
yeah,
to
Laris is like, all
the
right,
word
you can keep
whisper.
that one to yourself. I'll
Yeah.
we'll see, big boy.
Like, that's all
Yeah,
you,
I think
buddy. No worries.
yeah. And then a dragon shows up at the end and they like both look at each other and they're like, oh shit. Um yeah, I think those are the only two scenes that because like talked about Allison stuff, talked about Damon stuff, talked about I guess there's like a scene between like when there's some stuff when Missaria is like telling Rhaenyra like, nah, you should definitely get all the people to try to ride the dragons. She's like, go do it. Like, "Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
but she's essentially just a hype man for the rest of the season. After the kiss,
Yeah.
she's just gonna hype her up. She's gonna say anything, literally. Just
Yeah, I'm really
just to
interested to
please
see
Rhaenyra.
how like her role continues to play out as the series goes on.
Mhm.
It'll be interesting.
Yeah, I guess. All right. Well, I guess that covers like pretty much everything on the episode, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah, I
All
think
right.
so.
All right. Well, I guess when we come back, we're gonna discuss what's next for the season, or the remaining episode, I guess.
Mhm.
So we'll be right back. Welcome back to the Valyrian Voice. We've talked a lot about this episode so far, and unfortunately, there's only one episode left. So, Alex, where do you think this season ends?
The Battle of the Gullet. Been saying this for weeks now. Yeah, I think that now the only question I have really is how far post the battle the episode will go. Like, because I don't want to spoil it, obviously. for those that haven't read the book. So I'll just say that there's going to be a big battle that happens. There's going to be lots of dragons involved. It's going to be fire, death, destruction. So that's going to be really cool to see. I am really curious where in the timeline of the episode that battle is going to take place. Like whether it's real soon at the beginning, middle, or near the end or whatever. Because I think that that's the big thing that's happening at the end of this season, and how much we deal and live in the aftermath of that in the remaining runtime of the season, I think is the biggest question mark for me, because there's a really big thing that happens in this battle that's going to substantially change the playing field and the trajectory for the characters and things as the war progresses and the series progresses from here on out. So I think that that's my biggest uncertainty going into next week. Most of the episode, though, or I guess not most of the episode, but most of the big plot things that I know need to happen are going to be exciting. I think it'll be really cool to see. We didn't talk about this in the. I mean, yeah, I guess it wouldn't have made sense to talk about this in the overall thoughts because it was for the trailer for the finale. But we're getting to see Tessarion next episode, which is super exciting. Who is Darren's dragon, Alicent's son, who was mentioned
Third son. Yeah.
2 weeks ago, I think, is when they gave
First
us
it was,
the.
more. I think it was 3.
Was it 3?
I think.
Because I want to say it was episode 5. I don't think it was 6. I think it was 5.
It was the last.
So it wasn't the same episode as the, or was it the same episode as the battle?
The last time we saw Otto Hightower.
No, because it was her brother that gave the update. Because the last time we saw Otto was episode 2 or 3, I think. 2. So it was either episode 4 or 5 whenever we saw him, or got the like couple lines exposition about like, hey, this is all you're going to need to know about him, because he's going to be a very important person pretty soon because he has a dragon. And so we're getting to finally see him next week. So that'll be cool. Yeah. Seeing him will be interesting. Seeing the big battle will be interesting. I think that it's definitely going to leave us in a very precarious isn't the right word, but a very volatile spot going forward, like as we move into season 3. I really just think that what we're getting in this finale should have happened closer to the midway point of this season, but it's fine. We'll see. I think we talked about this a few weeks ago. I hope we just get the 4 seasons and it's a really strong 4 as opposed to a sort of stretched 5. But, we'll see how it goes. Do you have any guesses or thoughts or inferences or what have you for what's going to happen next week?
I haven't read far ahead to the Battle of the Gullet yet. So I don't know exactly the details of that or the aftermath of that or anything like that, but I do know that it's dragons. I do know that it's plenty of death and destruction. I don't know if any major players die during that, but I guess I'm looking forward to it mostly.
Maybe. I don't know. Mayhaps.
I mean, it seems like you do know, but I mean, I'll just wait. I'll just wait a week to find out.
I definitely know, but I mean, you tell me. Maybe there'll be some major deaths. I don't know, some casualties.
We'll see. We'll see. If there's anything, we saw Lucerys die this time last season during the season finale. So
that's true.
I mean, it could be more of the same.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't even think about that. That was the season finale. That's rough. Rip that kid.
It was.
Do you have any things that you want specifically for the finale to deliver?
I want Damien to get back into the fold, but I do know that he might be staying at Harrenhal for a bit, honestly.
Well, there's a shot of Caraxes welcoming dragons to Harrenhal, like roaring at some dragons arriving at Harrenhal. So I think it's
yeah, that's even worse. I mean, why would you take dragons away and take them to Harrenhal? Just leave Harrenhal and go back and do stuff.
Well, They gotta go get him. He's not
I
responding.
get it. No, I know. It's just I want to see him
He's
back
got
into
his
the fold. I'm done with this whole haunting thing.
yeah, that's fair. That's a good yeah. I would like that to get resolved. That'd be a nice thing for the season finale.
It would be great.
I think we'll get that. I think we'll get him back into the foray of stuff soon.
Yeah, but there's no soon. We have one episode. Like it's either gonna happen in a week, 2 years.
Yeah, that's true. I think it'll happen next week. That is a big bummer though that we're gonna have to wait 2 years for the next one. I really hope they do start shooting this fall. That way, it's like I mean, it's still probably gonna be the same length of wait no matter what. It's gonna be like 2 years because it's not gonna be ready next summer. So it'll be the following summer, but that's fine, I guess. Hopefully, we get a 10-episode season next season. That would be my main thing. Not even my main thing, I
Great.
guess, but that would be nice. I don't want to get too much into season 3 speculation yet this week, though, because I'm sure we'll do that next week. But did you have
For sure.
any other final thoughts on this episode, what we're looking for in the finale, or anything else before we wrap up?
No, I think we covered it all. Pretty sure we're good.
Very
We'll come back in
nice.
a week and we'll see where everything went.
Yeah, well, it'll be fun. So thank you everyone for tuning in to episode 6 of the Valyrian Voice. Hamed, where can people find you online?
You guys can find me on X/Twitter and Instagram at Hamtastic. That's just Hamtastic with 2 C's in that.
Awesome. And you can find me online at AP Batman with 2 T's. Please be sure to subscribe here to The Aspect on YouTube and any platform where podcasts can be found. You can also follow us on Twitter/X, Instagram, and TikTok at The Aspect Co. Thank you so much for listening. A huge thank you to Peter Fraser for providing our series music, and we'll see you beyond the wall.